Many songs that you hear in pop and rock music nowadays have been more or less influenced by blues harmony. Sometimes that influence is very apparent, sometimes it's kind of hidden to the ear. This influence can be found in the chosen chords, in the melody, or specifically in the scale that a songwriter chooses his melody notes from, and sometimes in the idiom that is used in the lyrics. In this section, we'll browse through blues harmony and the chord options you have. Because many True Fire courses dig deep into this matter, I'll only give you a quick overview of your chord options in case you decide you want to write a blues or blues-influenced tune. Blues is mostly played with 3 dominant chords in a 12-bar format in a shuffle feel with a melody that uses the minor pentatonic scale. In the key of G, we would play the dominant chords on the 1 chord, on the 4 chord, and on the 5 chord. So G7, C7, and a D7. Note with 2 of those chords we're using notes from outside of the major scale. The G7 has an F note and the major scale holds an F sharp. The C7 holds a B flat where the G major scale holds a B. 1, 2, 3, 4. All these dominant chords have a tritone interval within them. So in a G7, there's your tritone. In your C7, this is your tritone. And in D7, there's your tritone. This gives them a lot of tension, but instead of resolving that tension, it just lies there. On top of that, we're using a minor pentatonic scale to sing or solo on. This scale has the flatted 3rd B flat and the flatted 7th F in it, which are not part of the G major scale. This means that on the G7 chord, you'll hear a B note as the major third of the chord, and the melody could hold a B flat. This creates even more tension. And to top it all off, the melody can also hold a blue note in it. This flatted 5th is added to the minor pentatonic scale to give it even more tension. In a way, you can see the blues as being the battle between major and minor. This creates tension and release in a form that our ear has gotten used to. Aside from these regular 3-chord blues progressions, there have been many variations that use other chords than just the 1, 4, and 5 dominant 7th chords. Songwriters have taken chords from major harmony to escape the somewhat monotonous blues forms, or even gone into borrowing chords from other scales. The first extensions you can use as a writer is to incorporate the chords that you can build on the scale notes from the underlying minor pentatonic scale. If you wrote a chord progression with the G7, C7, and D7 chords and want to remain in the blues domain, you can add chords built on the G minor pentatonic scale. This scale is the scale you would use to solo on, and it's also the basis for your melodies. This scale is an Aeolian minor scale, which has 7 notes, from which you've removed 2 notes. You end up with a 5-note scale, so pentatonic, that consists of the tonic, the flatted 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the flatted 7th. Now in blues harmony, you already have access to the dominant 7th chords on the 1st, 4th, and 5th degree. You can extend your chord options by adding a major chord on the flatted 3rd and on the flatted 7th degree. You would get a B flat chord, or a B flat 7, and an F or an F7 chord in blues songs in the key of G. Listen to this groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you can hear, blues harmony is the name of the game, and the dominant 7th chords on the flatted 3rd, B flat 7th, and the flatted 7th chord, F7, fit right in. Songs like The Animals' I'm Crying use this principle in conjunction with the 12-bar blues progression. The Who's My Generation and the Kings' You Really Got Me also add these extra chords. A great song to listen to and get a solid grip on these added chords, so that's the flatted 3rd and the flatted 7th chord, is Jumpin' Jack Flash by the Rolling Stones. Some more edgy blues styles rely heavily on this principle. I'll listen to this slow boogie in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. The chords that I'm using here are an A, actually an A5 chord, a C and a D, a G5 chord, and an E chord. Lagrange by ZZ Top is a great boogie example with these features. The minor pentatonic scale in A holds the notes A, C, D, E, and G, and all of these notes function as a root for a chord within this blues harmony. If you want to write a song in a rock or blues influenced style, those chords are your go-to chords. So the A, the C, the D, the E, and the G, or a G5. The scale you would use the scale you would be using for your melody is the minor pentatonic scale. But because you're playing major chords also, and sometimes even dominant 7th chords, all the chord notes from these respective chords also sound good. In the blues progression we played before, we came across these chords: the G7, a C7, a B flat 7, an F7. Now remember that the minor pentatonic scale holds the note G, B flat, C, D, and F. The G7 chord has a G, B, D, and an F note in it, found note there, and the B note being the odd one out because it's not in the minor pentatonic scale. You can use this B note, which is the major 3rd of the G7 chord, in a melody when the background chord is a G7th. In other chords, this note will sound off or not that good. Many blues melodies make use of the B flat and the B note in conjunction. The B flat from the scale and the B note from the chord. The C7 chord also has an extra note in it that you can use in the melody. Now the C7 chord, it's a better view here. It's a C note, an E note, a G note, and a B flat note. Now the major 3rd of that chord is an E note, which can be found here, and that cannot be found in a G minor pentatonic scale. That's your E note. Now this E note sounds particularly well on the C7 chord, but it also fits on most of the other chords. Let your ear be the guide on that one. The major 3rd of the D7 chord is an F sharp note, which cannot be found in the G minor pentatonic scale. It's not there. Again, this can be an option for your melody if the background chord is a D7. The A note, which is the 5th of the D7 chord, can be used throughout the progression. The chord notes of the B flat 7 and F7 are B flat, D, F, A, and F, A, C, and E flat. Now the E flat being a note that really only sounds good on the F7. There's your E flat. So what you see here is that in a blues-influenced progression, the melody can hold notes from the minor pentatonic scale. You can add the blue note, the flatted fifth, to it if you want to, resulting in a blues scale. These notes sound pretty good on all the chords you play. Each note of that scale will have a different amount of gravity on each background chord, but none of the notes will sound off. The resulting sound of these melodies is an edgy, bluesy one. If you want this type of raw sound, stick to the blues scale for your choice of melody notes. Adding notes from the background chord you are on will create a more subtle, smooth sound. Your melody moves along with the chords and will follow the atmosphere or overall sound of these chords. And you can go even a step further by using the scales that go with each of these dominant seventh chords. On each of these chords you can use its Mixolydian scale as the source for melodies. This scale is a regular ionic major scale with the seventh note lowered a half step. So on a G7, the Mixolydian scale would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And on a B flat seventh, the Mixolydian scale would be B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. Now, if you'd like to know why this works, I'd like to refer you to one of the other True Fire courses like Jump Blues or one of Brad Carlton's explanation of modes. An in-depth look at modes is not the focus of this course in songwriting. In most cases, you can let your ear be the guide on what works and what sounds good.